Alright, welcome to Ichi the Witch. Today I am going to start the first video on the channel of trying to pick up weekly Ichi the Witch and follow along with it, to do that with multiple series that I will be showing on the channel. It'll be a lot of work. I'm hoping I can get it done all within relatively good time before in between chapters. But chapter 87 here picks up immediately in the aftermath of that brutal confrontation with Fujimine. Ichi went full instinct mode and stabbed her in the neck. And as a first part of this video, I am going to be reading off of a script, and I'm going to be looking over here. I'll try and get better with that as videos go on. So chapter 87 here picks up immediately in the aftermath of that brutal confrontation with Fujimine. Ichi went full instinct mode and stabbed her in the neck after sensing her killing intent, even while she was posing as his childhood friend through her mind control powers. Fujimine doesn't go down easy though. This chapter is less about big, flashy fights and more about the consequences, the conversations, and the cleanup. The title for this chapter is Exchange of Blows, which is perfect because we get both a lingering verbal and physical exchange between Fujimine and Ichi, and a hilarious, yet rather intense rivalry payoff at the end. It's a classic post-battle decompression chapter that still manages to drop some heavy character and lore elements. Alright, now moving on to the pacing and structure of the chapter. We'll start off with pacing, and here it's deliberately slower than the previous chapters, and that's a good thing, because after the non-stop action and high stakes of that last arc, we needed a breather from a lot of things, especially from last chapter. So it breaks down with the structure as opens with a direct aftermath of the stabbing and the intense Ichi and Fujimine conversation. It escalates with external intervention, having Descaris arrive and the World Eater Magic Group involvement. Then shifts to Fujimine's return to her allies and some reflections or an apology towards the World Hater Magic, which she calls Haiti. Then we move on to the parallel scenes showing the broader cleanup within the Witch Association damage and the captured antagonists. Lastly, we end on a lighter note, character-driven note with the mentors there. It's well structured for an aftermath chapter, serious and introspective in the first half, and then balancing it with humor and setup in the second. No wasted pages. A lot of these series that I'm reading do not have a lot of filler, which is really nice to see, or have different plot points that can go away from certain things. The transitions feel supernatural. Not supernatural, but supernatural. And the chapter doesn't overstay its welcome. We have the solid mid-arc pacing that lets the big moments breathe a little bit. Moving on to the character components that we can draw from this chapter. This chapter is stacked with character work. First, we have Ichi. We get more confirmation of what makes him terrifying and tragic. His instincts completely override mind control, emotion, and hesitation. Even when Fujimine is trying to emotionally manipulate him by posing as someone close, his body moves on pure survival and hunter instincts, which is why it can be counted as tragic, because he just doesn't have that awareness to override his survival instincts or his hunter instincts. Fujimine straight up tells him he's not cut out to be a human because he stabbed her without hesitation. Although, from her perspective, yes, you can't be that whenever you have the instinct to just do that. But from Ichi's perspective, and also from my perspective, if you have somebody that's having killing intent towards you and you know that that's what they're going to do, that's it. That shows you their intent right there. Ichi's response essentially boils down to humans are just another type of animal. This deepens his whole feral hunter raised in isolation background. The line from the official promo, they can take over his mind but not his instincts, which is pure Ichi coded nowadays that we can see in this chapter, which is a kind of a good sprinkle of information, and I love it. All right, we'll move on to Fujimine. Huge character expansion for her. She's not just a one-off brainwashing villain. She survives near fatal injuries by regenerating in very magic-like ways, possibly tied to Toxiterra magic. Maybe she has made a contract with some type of magic as well to become like a half magic, half person. She gets saved by her boss in a somewhat playful and crushing manner, and returns to the group humbled, which is groveling at the feet of Haiti. We see her apologize and vow not to act solo again. Then she goes over the conversation that she had with Ichi, where she basically says, "You're like us, join the non-humans." And that adds layers to it. She's got a philosophy about humanity. She's a long-term reoccurring threat now, and she has a genuine dynamics within the World Hater Magic crew. Now we'll move on to Descaris, who I've mixed feelings about. A lot of people say that she is a favorite. I have mixed feelings about her, but we'll move into her character components of the chapter. She's protective big sister and mentor type of status, and that's strong in this chapter. She shows up, grabs Ichi, and goes off on the offensive with that Alexander Slash moment. She's clearly not letting anyone take or mess with her boy. I think that's also because he's part of their crew, but also she has that kind of bond with him that anything that happens to her happens to him happens to her. The chapter ends with Descaris and Minakata, Ichi's former master, settling their differences over Ichi via ping pong match. So it's kind of like a custody battle via table tennis. Very, very interesting moments within Ichi the Witch. Shows that it's kind of a mid-arc type of feeling. It humanizes both mentors and shows their long-standing rivalry while giving us lighter moments after all of the darkness. And then we move on to the last component, the supporting cast, which is always that way. So first we have the Toxoterra Magic looking sad while healing, Trikapudo and Chun and etc., which is interesting. And the flashback elements for Hitsugi, World Hater Magic, Amadoro, Ribbon Candy, Gokuraku Kagami. They add texture without overwhelming. Moving on to the story progression and lore components of the chapter. Story-wise, this feels like the arc is wrapping up, or at least entering its cooldown phase. We have the antagonists like Amadoro Ribbon Candy and her accomplices getting round up. Things like the Witch Association, Monotel Witches headquarters taking visible damage, but it's already in repair mode because they're witches and they can do that type of thing real quick. And then we also have Fujimine escapes. She's saved via a portal and a hand from the World Hater Magic side, and returns to her group as a reoccurring villain. She's not defeated, she's just regrouping, and we see that with that big spread at the end. Next, we'll move into the bigger lore drops. First, we got Fujimine's power having limits. So brainwashing appears to be a one-time use per person, which means Ichi, Descaris, and the crew are now resistant. So that's a huge future safety. We'll move to Fujimine's nature. She has regeneration that looks magic adjacent, non-human traits, and her worldview that Ichi belongs with the non-humans. This ties directly into the series themes of what makes someone human versus magic versus witch. Now we'll move to the World Hater Magic group expansion. From this, we see more silhouettes and members. Fujimine isn't acting alone, obviously, with not just with the World Hater Magic, but others as well. There's structure to what they have, and the World Hater Magic himself intervenes personally, playfully crushing her but not killing her. The next point we'll go to, Ichi's unique position. His instincts make him both a weapon and a liability. Villains could theoretically weaponize this by creating situations where innocents have killing intent toward him. And then we'll move on to the last point. We have the custody ping pong battle between Descaris and Minakata, which teases deeper mentor history and Ichi's place in the world moving forward. Progression wise, we're shifting from survive this immediate threat to deal with the consequences and prepare for what's next. Fujimine surviving sets up a long-term antagonism phase. And now we'll move on to my final thoughts on the chapter. Chapter 87 here is a strong aftermath chapter that does exactly what it needs to do. It doesn't try to one-up the previous action. Instead, it gives us meaningful character moments, solidifies Fujimine as a recurring threat, and deepens Ichi's inhuman instincts, as well as ends on a fun, memorable note with the ping pong custody battle. The Fujimine-Ichi conversation is a standout for me. That "you're not cut out to be a human" line lands hard and will probably echo for arcs to come, as Ichi kind of learns a lot more about social etiquette and how the world works, really. The series continues to balance dark themes with humor and heart perfectly. Overall, I'll give the rating an 8.5 out of 10. No real categorizing what that is, just an arbitrary 8.5. Great decompression with excellent setup. Not the flashiest chapter, but one that feels more important in hindsight, I'm sure. What do y'all think? Fujimine surviving and that ping pong ending? Drop thoughts in the comments below once you have the ability to. Are we more World Hater Magic group? Are we getting more World Hater Magic group lore next chapter? I'm more wanting that to happen so we can see what's going on. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next Ichi the Witch video. All right, see ya.